Is Sim Theme Park, the PC release of Bullfrog's Theme Park World, bizarre or classic? Both. Like finding a perfectly preserved CRT under a sleek OLED, then discovering it still smells faintly of lemonade and solder. Underrated or overrated? In the long shadow of Roller Coaster Tycoon's isometric empire, it's absolutely underrated. It didn't lose the popularity contest so much as refused to show up wearing the same grid pattern tux. Foundational or forgettable? If your definition of foundational includes lets you ride your own coaster, hear your guests shriek, and then plant more trash bins because you are a benevolent god of sanitation, then it's foundational. If your definition doesn't include that, we might be living in different timelines. I'm a 79 kid who grew up on arcade noise and the smell of hot plastic. When a management sim invites me into first person to sit in my own nausea machine, sorry, roller coaster, my lizard brain says, yes, obviously, this is what games were always supposed to be. Is that hyperbole? Sure. But what's more hyperbolic than a park full of dinosaur flumes and space coasters managed by a disembodied advisor who sounds like he has a clipboard for your soul? Historical context. Let's set the stage with the unglamorous facts, because nothing says retro spotlight like a date stamp. In North America, the PC version launched on November 3rd, 1999 as Sim Theme Park. In Europe, it arrived a couple of weeks later, November 19th, 1999 as Theme Park World. Same game, different badge on the box, courtesy of EA's decision to hitch Bullfrog's sequel to the mighty Sim brand for US shelves. That's not just marketing trivia, it's a snapshot of the late 90s PC scene, when a word on the front could reshuffle an audience's expectations. The earlier theme park, 1994, had already taught us that a spreadsheet could giggle, and Bullfrog's larger portfolio, Populous, Theme Hospital, Syndicate, had a knack for making systems feel like toys, and toys feel like plots to overthrow your Sunday afternoon. By 99 though, the field had a new monarch in Roller Coaster Tycoon. If you wanted crisp isometric lines and business-first feedback loops, Chris Sawyer had you. If you wanted to feel physically present in your Franken Park, Bullfrog had a pitch. Be there. Be there required tech. The team initially flirted with the Populace, the beginning engine, before deciding they needed a new 3D solution, one that crucially didn't require a 3D accelerator card. Remember being the kid without a voodoo board who still wanted the party invite? This was that kid. That engine choice said a lot about the game's philosophy. Accessibility first, spectacle second. Meanwhile, they rethought the cruft from the 1994 original. The staff strikes that made players feel like harried HR managers retired. The queuing behavior that turned parks into snake pits of patience embraced like a national sport. Somewhere in an office in Guilford, someone decided that lines, literal lines, would be a kind of protagonist. 25 years later, I can confirm they were right. It's the rare game where you can practically hear guests tut. The advisor, officially advisor, not Buzzy, though fans often call him that, completed the tone. He's voiced by Lewis MacLeod in the UK release and Terry McGovern in the US, and whichever voice you hear, the result is the same. A personable, slightly over-eager guide who makes a management sim feel less like a tax return and more like Saturday morning TV. He nags you about litter, he congratulates you on not bankrupting a cotton candy stand, he announces ride breakdowns like he's hosting a telethon. Do I sometimes mute him? Yes. Do I then panic when I miss his warning about a coaster turning into a smoke machine? Also, yes. One more piece of context that matters for PC specifically. This version folded in a genuinely forward-looking online layer, often forgotten in the rush to talk about ride cams. Theme Park World Online lets you publish parks, visit other people's creations, vote in competitions, send postcard screenshots via email, and even download attractions via a special currency of platinum tickets. There was chat with moderation tools. The future arrives with a be nice sign attached, and a light sense that your little island of paths and puddles belong to a larger archipelago of parks. If you're thinking, that sounds like Steam Workshop before Steam Workshop, you're not wrong. It was a prototype of the sharing first culture that would eventually define an entire subgenre. Mechanics. Here's where you actually live. 4 themed worlds: Lost Kingdom, Halloween World, Wonderland, 2 words which I swear is not a typo, and Space Zone, each of them a compact sandbox with its own palette and personality. On PC, you start with Lost Kingdom and Halloween World unlocked, Wonderland and Space Zone open once you've proved you can keep guests thrilled, solvent, and not ankle deep in vomit. You will fail at least one of those factors. I don't make the rules. The progression currency is a child's fantasy welded to a manager's checklist. checklists, golden tickets, and golden keys. Do well, profit targets, crowd satisfaction, maintenance discipline, and you'll feed a meter that spits out tickets to spend on special rides and bonuses. Accumulate enough progress and you'll earn keys that open up the new worlds. It's Willy Wonka by way of P&L. I've rarely felt so seen. Building is 90% of your day, the other 10% being apologizing for your building. You drop paths and cluster rides so that sightlines make sense. You carve out zones for food, toilets, souvenirs. You add benches, bins, lights, speakers, cameras, and all the other tiny cogs in the happiness machine. You can dive into research to unlock better shops, shinier rides, and reliability upgrades, because nothing torpedoes a park's mood like a crowd staring at a closed for repairs sign while clutching churros. You manage staff, handymen and cleaners, mechanics, entertainers, guards, and the new kids, researchers or scientists who chew through tech projects like a Pac-Man in a lab coat. You train them, you schedule breaks. Pro tip, give them actual staff rooms rather than hoping they nap standing up. And you curse them in a loving managerial way when a mechanic chooses lunchtime precisely as your flagship coaster begins coughing up smoke. Why are you like this, Gary? Why? Now the thing that separates Sim Theme Park from its grid-obsessed rival. You don't just build a ride and admire its throughput, you ride it. On PC, first-person ride cam is there from the jump. No 4-ticket gate required, that's a PlayStation quirk. And the simple act of sitting in your own coaster reframes the entire design loop. You stop building for abstract efficiency and start staging for experience. You notice that your best vista is 2 turns earlier than you thought, that your park's skyline is all snack stalls and no icon, that the bend you believed was thrilling mostly gives you an excellent view of a toilet block. It is genuinely an epiphany the first time you crest a Space Zone drop and see the whole Chrome campus glittering like a motherboard. If you didn't whisper, "We built this," to yourself the first time, you're stronger than me. The advisor stitches this into a cadence. He pipes up when guests are confused, hungry, or bored, when litter accumulates, when a mascot is too far from the action. His announcements mean you're never stuck gazing at a spreadsheet wondering why the numbers nosedived. The feedback is voiced, immediate, slightly theatrical. It turns out a little theater is exactly what a management sim needs. Just ask Theme Hospital, which understood this back in '97. Add the thought bubbles hovering over guests, clutchy clouds of appetite, discomfort, and desire, and you get a street-level sense of what your park is, minute to minute. And now, the absurd through line that owns me, the humble bin. In other games, trash bins are set dressing. In this one, they're the butterfly wing beat that becomes a park-wide hurricane. Place them smartly near exits and between nausea bombs and snack lines, and the entire maintenance load tilts towards sanity. Place them lazily, and your handyman becomes Sisyphus with squeegees, forever rolling a boulder of puke up a hill made of poor planning. I've lost entire afternoons to bin feng shui. People think the advisor is fussy when he nags about litter. He's not. He's whispering the game's true gospel. Every time he says, "Your park is untidy," I hear, "You forgot who the protagonist is." It's the bin. The bin is the protagonist. Economically, the sim is gentler than some peers without becoming a pure toy. You can tweak admission prices, retail margins, seasoning levels. Yes, salty fries are still the moral dilemma they were in 1994, and the trade-offs feel tangible. Misjudge a price point, and the thought bubbles register it immediately. Loans and land expansions let you go one more ride at 2 a.m. My preferred fiscal policy, and there's an instant action mode that plops you into a partially built lost kingdom with research humming and silly money in the bank. Good for when you want to play the stage director rather than the CFO. Does it hold your hand? A little. Does it also allow your park to collapse if you forget to fix a broken attraction for 10 in-game hours because you were window dressing a fountain? Absolutely. One of the most forward-looking parts of Sim Theme Park on PC is how it makes your park feel porous, connected to other parks and other people. Theme Park World Online, now a quaint phrase to modern ears, was a small revolution. Publish a park, poke at someone else's design, vote in seasonal competitions, download a special attraction using platinum tickets, send a postcard captured from your best angle, and spam it to a friend who definitely asked for this. They didn't. And there was chat with moderation tools, because even in 1999, design, someone understood that putting humans together requires brooms, virtual and otherwise. If that sounds like the early DNA of today's mod and share culture, that's because it was. A word about difficulty and who is this for, because that's where people often bounce. Roller Coaster Tycoon is the clean, exacting professor. Sim Theme Park is the drama teacher who lets you improvise, then asks you to run it again with more feeling. It trims some of the fiddlier staff dramatics from Theme Park, no strikes, fewer gotchas, and focuses on vibes, guest experience, ride visibility, that intangible flow from stall to coaster to shop to toilet and back again. You can muddle through on charm and buzzy, sorry, the advisor will cajole you toward competence. But if you choose to min-max, the sim doesn't stop you. It just prefers to make the min-maxing fun to look at. Legacy and influence. Did Sim Theme Park conquer its moment? It did well, more than okay. In North America, it finished the year 2000 as the 8th best-selling computer game, crossing the 500,000 mark and change, and it continued to sell into 2001 enough to stick around the charts. In the UK, it hit ELSPA Platinum, 300,000 plus, which is the industry's way of knighting a title for services to Saturday afternoons. Critically, it lived in that cozy good to great bracket, plenty of 7s and 8s, reviewers praising the joyous tone and ride cam while poking at the occasional interface flail or AI derp. The Showpiece Trophy is unambiguous. A BAFTA Interactive Entertainment Award for Sound in 2000, owed in no small part to James Hannigan's score, which manages the tightrope act of whimsical but not twee across wildly different park themes. If you've ever stood near the Wonderland Carousel and noticed the music nestle right under your brainstem like a helpful ferret, yes, that. As for influence, we can trace lines, wiggly but real. The embodied perspective, the insistence on being in the space you design echoes loudly in the modern class of builders, not just in the park genre. When people praise Planet Coaster for its cinematic fetish or Parkitect for how it makes the little things feel tactile, I hear the faint clatter of Bullfrog's first-person carts. The online layer, too, was a harbinger. It taught a generation of players to think of their park as something to show rather than merely to be, and that instinct metastasized into the later workshop mod scene that has become second nature in Sims and sandboxes. It also shaped its own series path. The follow-up, Theme Park Inc., released in North America as SimCoaster in 2001, pivoted toward workplace management, contracts, staff hierarchies, office politicking. I like it. It's sharper on the back-end economics, but I end up returning to Sim Theme Park more often, the way I rewatch the movie with better jokes rather than the one with better third-act discipline. There's a buoyancy to Sim Theme Park, a delight-first posture that never curdles into aimlessness. The systems are there. I've seen the spreadsheets. They're fine. But what lodges in your heart is something closer to theater direction. The advisor's chatter, the ride cam's grin, the glitter of a space zone skyline at dusk. Those are the hooks that keep tugging. Why then isn't it the default nostalgic pick whenever Park Sim comes up? Partly timing. Roller Coaster Tycoon's immaculate isometric clarity was the right flavor at exactly the right moment, and it carved a canyon in the collective memory. Partly identity. Sim Theme Park's name swap across regions muddied its shelf recognition. Is it Theme Park World? Is it Sim Theme Park? And that little confusion adds up over decades, and partly ironically because it was generous. It let you feel clever without making you pass a midterm on elasticity. That reads as casual to some. To me, it reads as playable forever, and because I promised esoterica, Wonderland really is 2 words. It feels like a typo every time, and in various manuals and credits you'll find the advisor never actually called Buzzy. That's us, the players, anthropomorphizing a widget. But that's the series in a nutshell. We keep naming the gears, and the gears keep smiling back. Closing paragraph plus score. If you measure a management sim by how much it makes you care about unglamorous infrastructure, Sim Theme Park belongs in the pantheon. I've lost hours to trash bin choreography. I've built entire plazas around sightlines that exist only for the 30 seconds you spend in first person on a ride. Then I've torn the plaza down because the queue snaked into the restroom and the advisor sounded disappointed in me. The loop is simple to describe and delicious to execute. Build, watch, adjust, ride, repeat. repeat. As an artifact of 1999, it's remarkably forward-thinking, online sharing, theatrical feedback, embodied play. And as a 2025 time capsule, it's still a blast to pick up on a rainy afternoon in mainline whimsy. Not perfect. No sim about cues can be perfect. We're human, but persistently delightful. My verdict, delivered with a confetti cannon made of receipts and churro wrappers. 8.0 out of 10. Could that number climb if I place more bins? Yes, fine. I'll place more bins.